All stand. Work cover authority against BBC Hardware owned by Bunnings.
The defendant operated a hardware and building supply business from premises located near Maitland in New South Wales. Mr Ian Sanderson was employed by C&C Transport Proprietary Limited. On the 17th of January 2002, Mr Sanderson drove his employer's truck into the defendant's premises to load up supplies for delivery. He parked his truck on a flat section of the defendant's yard, and from which the yard then commenced to slope upwards. A forklift, operated by an employee of the defendant, was being utilised to load plywood. The forklift was parked with the tines off the ground, pointing downhill. It was in gear with the handbrake on. The forklift driver had alighted to assist a customer in loading plywood. As is described, a clunking sound was heard, and without warning, the forklift rolled down the slope and struck Mr Sanderson, who was standing beside his truck. He was pinned between the load of the forklift and the side of the table tray of his truck. Mr Sanderson sustained severe injuries and died later that day in hospital. As a result of the accident, the defendant is charged with the breach of Section 8, Subsection 2 of the Occupational Health and Safety Act 2000.
For the record, sir, can you tell the court your name? Thank you.
Darren John McAvoy.
And your occupation, sir?
Store manager.
In respect to the forklift subject of this inquest, you were aware there was a manual delivered with the forklift when it was obtained?
As far as I know, yeah.
You were the manager of the work site, were you not?
Yeah.
Why didn't you make yourself conversant with the equipment manuals being used on your work site?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Well, I was never properly trained.
Before I started with Bunnings, I had no formal occupational health and safety training at all. I've really experienced very well-established training programs through Bunnings. It's been of an exceptional standard. But prior to that, in previous life, if you like, no formal experience with occupational health and safety. So it really has come to the forefront and really is now the #1 talking point around all the stores and the #1 behavioural change.
Well, I think it's all about disciplines. It's all about making sure that, A, you know what is required, and we've got the manuals and the procedures that support us within that, and it's having the discipline as a leader to make sure you're accurate with what you are reporting.
As the manager, ultimately it was your responsibility to ensure that the work vehicles and machinery was maintained to a specific work standard.
Yes.
That they were safe at all times, and that any servicing of the machinery or the vehicles was to be done as per manufacturer's instructions.
As far as I was aware, they notified us when the vehicle needed servicing.
But you were ultimately responsible, and you did not make yourself conversant with what should have been done correctly in terms of servicing of the forklift, did you?
No.
Were you aware there were to be weekly checks of the main systems?
A checklist was done by the operators before they used the machinery in the morning.
And did you enforce that at the yard?
No, as far as I was aware, the owners and the operators and drivers would do that.
Could you speak up, Mr McAvoy? The microphones just record your answers. They don't make you louder.
So there was no direct supervision by management that the safety checks were being done on a weekly basis?
No.
Had you ever seen a forklift being used to load and unload on the up and down plane of the sloping ground at the yard?
Yes.
And did you ever inform the drivers that they shouldn't do that?
Not as far as I was aware. I mean, the site had been open for 13 or 14 years, and that was the way it was always done.
The major issue, fundamental issue, was the culture at the site and the behaviour of the team, that, hey, that's the way we've always done it, parking forklifts. It was entrenched, that behaviour, that culture. that was a major issue, not so much the physical, because we had procedures for parking forklifts, checking forklifts. It was the behaviour, the attitude that led to the unfortunate incident.
Did you take any steps yourself to make sure the persons operating that forklift were certificated?
Yes, and they had a copy of everyone's licence in their personal files.
How long had you been site manager as of the day of the incident?
A bit over 12 months, 16 months, maybe.
12 or 16 months?
Yeah. Well, I'm not quite sure.
Have you heard of an occupational health and safety manual?
Yeah, I've heard of it, yeah.
Have you ever seen a document that has that general description before?
No, I haven't.
Sir, have you ever seen a document like that one before?
No, I haven't read it.
Yep, no worries.
I draw your attention to Chapter 5. There's some reference to operating instructions in relation to forklifts. Do you see that?
Yes.
It refers there to a restriction on parking on a gradient, does it not?
Yeah, yes.
Can you read them out to me? Just the little paragraph.
Never park...
I object, Your Honour. What's the relevance of this?
Your Honour, there is a policy in the OH&S manual that refers to this actual situation.
Overruled. Witness proceed.
That's me. Never park a forklift truck on a gradient. When parked, make sure it is in gear with the brake applied, forks lowered, and engine or gas valve off. The engine must be switched off and the ignition keys removed.
Sir, that statement is comprised within the Occupational Health and Safety Manual. Have you ever seen that paragraph before?
No.